live.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Right.
Morning, everyone.
Or afternoon, depending on where you are, I guess.
Yeah. Depending where you are. We'll give everyone a couple minutes and then we'll get started.
Sounds good. Sounds good, Jess. We still need to fix this holding music. I feel like it'd be nice to have like a bit of a holding music
Yeah.
like in this webinar.
We'll have to figure out our anthem. Right, we'll do another minute and then we'll get started.
Wonderful. We have a few people from a little bit all over the place. Yeah, this is great.
We do.
Pressure is on.
It's being juggled right now. Fab. Should we get into things?
Let's go. Let's do it.
So good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us as well. My name is Jess. I'm the marketing coordinator here at Gravity CX. Before I hand everything over to Hugo, I did just want to go through a few housekeeping points on my end. So the webinar is being recorded and you will get a replay link after the event, which I'll run through at the end. And then at the end of the session, we will have a little bit of a Q&A. So if you did want to submit any questions throughout the webinar, there is a chat icon on the right, and I'll make sure none of your questions are missed along the way. If you run into any issues, we do recommend using Google Chrome for the best experience. So if it is having a glitch on your end, maybe switch over if you aren't already. But today we're excited to introduce you to Gravity CX. We are a premier Zendesk partner, so we help businesses optimize customer and employee experience. And in today's session, we're going to run through a deep dive into Zendesk Copilot, so running through maximizing your agent efficiency, driving some better conversations. I'll pass everything over to you, Hugo.
Thanks, Jess. Thanks for kicking us off. Hi, everyone. I'm Hugo. I'm part of Gravity CX. I'm the head of growth here. And so, yeah, let's dive into Copilot. So this session will be a mix of slide and also a mix of presentation of the actual product, right? So we want to actually dive a bit deeper into what Copilot looks like for Zendesk. From a Zendesk perspective, we're going to go over some of the settings, so let's get started. So Zendesk, let's start with the strategy with regards to what Zendesk looks like in terms of what they're doing for investing, right? So Zendesk is investing in its product, and there is kind of two buckets of the AI initiative and AI capability that Zendesk is investing in. And they fall into actually two different use cases, right? So one part of it is a deflection aspect, which is everything to do with AI agent. And so basically, it's before a ticket gets created, right? We want to deploy capabilities so that we can have AI agent that reply to customer either through chat, email, or voice now, so that actually does not become a ticket. But there is still ticket, right? And ticket is not going away anywhere. And so the second aspect is the Copilot, which is what we're going to talk about today. And so Copilot as a whole is a Zendesk capability that allows you to bring efficiency to your human team through the use of AI. And so we're going to delve into what Copilot is, how does it work. We're going to show you actually exactly how this looks like in Zendesk. We're going to look at some of the settings. We're going to look at some of the reporting. But hopefully also we're going to share a bit of the strategic aspect of why you would be investigating Copilot. Does it make sense to you? And look at some of the success metrics that we want to measure when we decide to look at Zendesk Copilot. So generally speaking, right, Copilot, as I mentioned, is really here to assist your team reply to customer inquiry. It's not there to deflect. It's not going to automatically reply to your customer, but it's going to empower your team to handle ticket much more efficiently. Generally speaking, when we look at the Copilot, it's very, very well suited for like complex ticket that might require maybe multiple touch, that might require, human judgment, that might require looking into different system to understand different things. It might also require internal escalation and collaboration with different teams. So any type of inquiry like this that is not easily deflectable, I would say, where, hey, we could just give you a simple reply and the ticket is closed, right? So inquiry like this that are slightly complex. This is where Copilot really brings a lot of value to your team. And again, right, the main goal is to enhance your team capability to reply to ticket, to understand the meaning of ticket. And the Copilot aspect comes into two key categories. The first category of capability is what's called intelligent triage, right? So intelligent triage has everything to do with what can we learn from a ticket that comes into Zendesk without having to wait for someone to open it, right? Now, things like, understanding the intent of the inquiry. Is someone sending an email or, filling out a form? What is the intent of this inquiry? We can also detect the sentiment, whether the customer is very unhappy or negative or very positive, right? If you're dealing with multiple language in different market, we can also detect what language is that ticket coming in. Now, the very good thing about this is that generally speaking, pre-AI era, you'd have like a level 1 team maybe whose job are to basically open all the ticket that's coming through and maybe kind of read through it and either escalate or resolve, right? So we kind of have to read through the email to understand that this needs to be escalated to level 2, or maybe, I don't know, this needs to go to a separate team. So there were this aspect of manual triaging to be able to kind of waiting for someone to understand what the ticket is about and what the inquiry is about. With this new capability, we resolve that problem, right? So we automatically know through Copilot, through intelligent triage, what the inquiry is about. We know the sentiment, we know the language, and with that, we can start deriving workflows. And so before I move on to the other part of Copilot, I want to take a bit of a deep dive around what intelligent triage looks like and show you a real example of it. So let's get started. I have shared my screen here. Let's make this there. Okay, wonderful. So what you're seeing here is Zendesk. This is your agent workspace. And what we want to do here is we just want to do a very simple kind of workflow where we have a little pink browser here. The pink browser is a customer. Her name is Sue. I'm going to make this a bit bigger so that we can make sure that everyone sees everything. It might be a bit big. So Sue, or customer here, she is sending us an email. She's ordered some shoes, and unfortunately, the shoe that she received is the wrong color, right? So very typical e-commerce or retail use case. We have an end consumer, they're not really happy, and they're sending us an email that they actually want a refund. And it's a pretty long email. There's a bunch of information. She's telling us the story about the fact that the shoe are the wrong color. And generally speaking, what you would probably do is it's an email, and so we'll have to kind of have someone read over that email to do a couple of things, right? Figure out, do we have the order number of that email? And then what is the email about, right? Does she want a refund? Does she want a return and swap with another item? So all that sort of thing, generally speaking, is something that you would have someone do. But when you start leveraging, I do have a lot of tab open. When you start leveraging Copilot and intelligent triage, you can start automatically route those tickets, right? So in this example, as a company policy, what we're saying every single customer who are requesting a refund, we want those tickets to go directly to finance, okay? And so generally speaking, we'll have to open the email, figure out that this is a refund, assign that to finance. with intelligent triage, we don't have to do this anymore. So you can see here, I've just refreshed. I'm under the finance team here. And Sue's email straight away came to the right view, right? Return and refund. So if I open the ticket, you notice that there's a few different things here that are slightly new if you don't have Copilot already. Mainly the intent request, right? So we know, again, right, the ticket has arrived, Copilot has read the ticket, and we've assigned an intent to it. We've also assigned a sentiment, right? We can also activate languages. So for example, if you have team that support, I don't know, Spanish-speaking customer and French-speaking customer, you can automatically route those inquiries to those teams to make sure that, we don't miss anything. And so because of that, right, we can do a whole bunch of very interesting things. We can send the inquiry and the ticket to the right team. And generally speaking, in a nutshell, if you do have manual triaging in place, leveraging intent and intelligent triage should really reduce that manual triage by 90%, right? There's going to be some gap, but ultimately speaking, the routing and the automated routing should be really in place if you start leveraging Copilot, right? We don't want someone, so more importantly, we don't want a customer to wait for someone to open their email to understand what they need. So ultimately speaking, there's a lot of things here that will happen. Your first reply time can reduce, so we can reply faster to customer, and a whole range of different things. So you can see here, I can actually change the intent if I want. I can also change the sentiment if I want. Now, one thing to understand about how Copilot work is that, sure, we actually have an intent and a sentiment, but throughout the conversation, maybe the sentiment becomes positive, right? Because Hugo or team member is supporting Sue very well, is pretty quick at replying, providing her the answer. And all of a sudden, Sue's actually very happy with the service that we've given her. So that is actually a dynamic parameter of the ticket that will evolve over the life cycle of that ticket. And what that means is, from a reporting perspective, which we're going to touch on later on, when you see sentiment or intent, those are actually based on the entire conversation of a ticket. So a ticket might start negative, but might end on a very positive note. And so this is actually quite accurate. So you can actually trust that reporting, right? It's not just negative and then move on. We analyze the entire ticket, and things can change over time, which is pretty good. In terms of the intent, generally speaking, when we deploy, Copilot with customer, there's always the need for customization. And what's happening with Copilot is that as soon as you purchase it, I'm switching here to the Agent Admin Center, sorry. You can see you would have access to intelligent triage, which is what we're talking about here, which is, what do we want to activate? What do we want to do as soon as the ticket is there? And Zendesk comes with a lot of pre-built intent. You can see here I have 411. However, as part of your operation, as part of your product and service offering, you might want to create custom intent that are custom to your jargon, your keyword, and your operation. And you can absolutely do that. You can see here we can create an intent. There is some best practice around how to kind of create an intent. It's all text-based, so it's all just textual. You just describe, give it a name, give a description around, what is a customer asking for that intent to be, detected. And so you can absolutely customize that. There's a lot of documentation there that explain how to do this. And this is pretty critical, because every single businesses, although customer support is really, a very simple problem, which is, customer has a query, we want to reply to them. But obviously your organization and your operation would be different. And so you have that level of flexibility around creating new intent. And there might be some intent that you might want to deactivate, right? That might not be relevant for you, right? So for example, account restriction, that might not really be something that is relevant to you. So, if you're, for example, your brick and mortar store that, sells shoe, I'm not so sure that this is relevant. So you can deactivate and kind of curate the list of intent that's available for Copilot to use from. So that's number one. And the other thing that comes with Copilot is what's called recommendation. So basically the way to think about Copilot is it would basically analyze your ticket as they come over time, and based on that, you'll have a number of spread out recommendations that will start populating, and you can actually decide to action them or not. So there's recommendation on new intent or intent update, but that's not the only place where you will see a lot of recommendation, right? You actually will have an overview recommendation as well, which will be looking at your configuration, right? Do you have duplicate trigger? So you can see here, we do actually have duplicate trigger. It will show that to you. And so those are spread out across Zendesk, right? And those are very helpful things that allows you to maintain and manage Zendesk efficiently, right? So if you have one admin or two, and you have lots of complexity with your Zendesk instance, this will make your life a lot more easier. Okay, moving on to the intelligent triage bits, right? There is a powerful capability as well, which is called entity detection. So entity detection here is, you can see there's a little blue highlighted piece of information here from Sue's email, and that's actually the order number. Now, this is part of what's called entity detection, and that allows you to basically create specific custom ticket field that you train Copilot on to be able to recognize. And so, for example, here, we actually have what's called like a regex field, which says, as part of a company, every single order number will start with the letter B and S, and will have 4 or 5 digits. And so based on that, Copilot is able to automatically pick up that there is an order number that's been provided, and automatically put that order number into our custom field. So you can see here, generally speaking, in the past, as an agent, I would have to copy this and pasting it here if that's relevant. With entity detection, we don't have to do this anymore. We can have Copilot do a lot of that for us. I'll give you a funny anecdote, right? We've worked with some football club here in Australia, and what they did is they've created an entity with all the name of their player in their team. And so every time someone was complaining, a member was complaining about a player, or when a player was mentioned, that was populated automatically. And what they're doing is they actually created a report that will combine the negative sentiment vs the number of time a player is mentioned over time. And if there is a spike of negative sentiment towards a player, that is actually helping them deriving PR investment. So, sometimes you have football players who are doing, some interesting things on match or anything like this that can, put off some of the member. And so those are the kind of things that, those are the kind of use case that you can think of, right? And obviously this can apply to your operation as well. But, funny story here with football club. So that is what intelligent triage allows you to do, right? It allows you to automatically understand what a ticket is about. It allows you to automatically route the ticket to the right team, right department, or the right view. And that also applies for anything else, right? So if you have specific SLA, for example, for a specific intent, so let's say that we have a 4-hour first reply time for refund request, you can also workflow that, right? So it's not only routing the ticket, it's also any operational things that needs to be applied to this ticket, including applying specific SLA policy based on specific intent. Or maybe you want to service first negative sentiment, right? So ticket with a negative or very negative sentiment, we want to have a different SLA for this. Maybe we want to have a specific view for that, or a specific dedicated team member to handle those negative sentiment, right? There's a whole range of possibility that you can start thinking about how you can leverage intelligent triage. Again, right, if you have any question, please put them in the chat. It should be on your left or right, actually right-hand side. So make sure you put any question that you have as I'm going through the demo, and we'd be very happy to kind of address them at the end. And I'm happy to go back to what I'm showing you here. The other thing that comes with Copilot is basically generating a summary of the ticket. So if there is a long conversation and we need to escalate that to someone else in the team, or maybe tag a manager to get some help, if there is 5 or 6 email thread, rather than having to read all the thread and kind of understand the context, we can summarize that. So again, right, Remember, right? Copilot is really here to provide you with a set of tools that enable and empower your team to be more efficient in their ability to understand and reply to customer. Okay. So that is intelligent triage in a nutshell. Okay, so that really is the one of the bucket of what Copilot brings to you is the ability to understand the ticket as soon as it lands in Zendesk, and you can start deriving workflow and operational efficiency out of that. Now, the second bucket that comes with Copilot is what's called Agent Copilot. Now, Agent Copilot is actually a very powerful set of feature that will transform the way your support team member are actually answering ticket. This set of capability, in a nutshell, the way to approach it will basically take over entire ticket lifecycle, but it will be under the supervision of a human agent. Okay, so there's a lot of capability that is coming with Agent Copilot. There's this within Agent Copilot. There's this feature called Auto Assist, which I want to go over today with you because that is such a powerful capability that you can really do some pretty interesting things with Auto Assist. Having said that, let's jump back right in and look at what Auto Assist look like from a Zendesk perspective and an agent perspective. So you can see here that there's two tabs. There's Intelligent Triage and there's Agent Copilot. This is in your admin center again, okay? You might find the UI slightly different. We are currently using the latest navigation UI of Zendesk, so it might look slightly different for you, but not for long because Zendesk is rolling out this new navigation, just for your information. So under Agent Copilot, we have a range of different capability. The first one is Auto Assist. I'm going to go over that in pretty big detail because this is going to be very powerful. We also have what's called suggestion, right? So we can actually suggest things to your agent. We can suggest macros. We can suggest tickets to be merged. We can show similar tickets. We can do a whole range of different things. And as you can see here, we can also generate live suggestion during phone call. So there's probably people in the room here who are heavily using voice, and voice is definitely not going anywhere. It's very, very much used for every single industry. And so you can actually do voice live recommendation, right? Copilot can listen into the call live and provide suggestion to your team as they are talking to your customer or your employee. And so those are very powerful capability. There's also writing tools. So if you write something, you can actually rewrite it in your tone. You can start to have consistency. So this is generally a problem when you have multiple agent across different country. Maybe you have some agent in Asia. Maybe you have some agent in India, and you have different group of people that are representing the same brand. And so you might want to bring some consistency in terms of the tone and how we talk to customer. This is where you can actually start personalizing how you write. You can do a whole bunch of different things here. You can have tone of voice. You can have instruction around how we actually talk to customers. So in terms of the brand, and are we polite? Are we friendly? Et cetera, et cetera. So let me go back to this ticket. So Sue wants a refund. We automatically routed this ticket to the finance team. Now I'm the finance team agent. I'm opening this ticket. And what you're seeing here is Auto Assist. And you can see here that the answer to Sue has been generated for me. I actually don't have to type it anymore. And you can see here that there's a couple of action as well that are suggested. Now, I can always edit that if I'm not happy, or I can turn it off if I want. But you can see here, and I'm going to go around how Auto Assist work just after that. But there's a fundamental shift in terms of what, as a support agent, what I need to do now, right? More and more, there's going to be AI capability that are being rolled out across platform. Obviously, Zendesk is one of the market leader, but this will happen, and this is happening for all the other platforms that you're probably using there, is that your team now should be more able to supervise this little AI assistant rather than manually typing, the reply. And that little AI assistant, auto assist, is actually built and learn from three different things, right? The first one is a new feature introduced with Copilot that we call procedure. And we're going to go over what a procedure is in a moment. The second thing is, if there's no procedure for auto assist to learn from and use to reply to Sue, we're going to look at your help center. Is there any article within your help center that I can use as an auto assist to be able to provide an answer and suggest a reply? And if there is no help article, is there any similar closed ticket, historically speaking, that are very similar to what Sue is asking that I can use and learn from to generate a response to Sue? Okay. So all of a sudden, what is happening here is that you might have, I don't know, 1 million historical ticket or 100,000 historical ticket pre-AI. Those tickets were just sitting there, untapped. Those tickets contain a wealth of knowledge from your team that come and go maybe. But all of a sudden, we want this data to work for you. We want all those historical positive tickets that have been solved in the past to be able to be leveraged using AI and support your team today. And so this is where, auto assist becomes very powerful and really start bringing a lot of efficiency to your team and their ability to reply to customer. Now, I want to go back to procedure, because procedure is, I would say, a capability on its own. And to access procedure, I'm going to switch gear and I'm going to go to your knowledge admin. Okay, so here I'm down to the knowledge. This is where you manage your help center. You'll have all your articles, your sections, etc., etc. And you will see a new object here called procedure. Again, you can see here that there's a recommendation. So, as you start gathering more and more ticket, Copilot will provide you with recommendation, including recommended procedure. So what is a procedure? A procedure is very similar to a help article, but it's purely based and aimed at agent Copilot to learn from. And so the way to think about a procedure is, if you have an internal SOP that if you were to hire me tomorrow as your new support agent team member, and you'd require me to be onboarded on this SOP, how do we issue refund in our company? Step one, we need to add a refund tag to the ticket. Step two, we need the order number, the date of purchase, and the reason for refund. We also need the product SKU, and on and on and on. And so you'd have maybe this internal SOP that is like a step-by-step thing that you give to your team member around, hey guys, this is how we issue a refund here. This is how we request finance to review a credit request, or whatever it is that you already have. This is what a procedure is. If you have an SOP, it can become a procedure. The main difference is that a procedure can have action. And you can see here, we have basic action, which is, hey, add a tag to the ticket. When we have the product SKU from the customer, fill the product SKU information into the custom ticket field. But what we can also do is we can actually create custom action. And a custom action are basically API call that we can make to different systems. So a very common one would be, we are an e-commerce company and we use Shopify. Maybe we want to make an API call once we have the order number of the customer to get information about the current order. Based on the response of the API call, we can start basically generating a response to the customer. Okay, so Copilot Auto Assist can actually talk to your system without requiring your team to have access to it, get information, and based on that information, can then draft response to customer. So a good example would be you can have a procedure for a refund. We talk to Shopify, and we can have two paths in the procedure. We can say if the purchase has been done and over 30 days, unfortunately, it's outside of our 30-day refund policy. So unfortunately, we can't refund that product. Otherwise, provide a refund to the customer. And again, right, this is an action that Auto Assist can take on your behalf. So some of the use case, right? What are some of the use case, and why is this such a powerful tool? Well, number one, it's a powerful tool because, as you can see here, it's basically taking over the ticket. I'm just approving this. This is sending a response to Sue. It's actually asking for the product SKU. We are actually telling her where to find the product SKU, and now we're waiting on the customer reply, right? So I can actually, move this ticket to pending, and if Sue reply, Auto Assist will take on and follow through the conversation. Basically, it can take over the entire life cycle of the ticket. And so you can see how now it's basically drastically reducing, in theory, the time that your agent would take to draft a reply and take the action necessary. And so all of a sudden, you become more of a supervisor of what's being suggested to you to reply to make sure that it's in line, etc. You approve and you move on to the next ticket. You approve and you move on to the next ticket. So you can see here how efficiency gain can become quite improved in regards to the number of tickets that we can handle as an agent. But also in terms of a job, right? You're not really relied on to manually write the answer and have all the knowledge and everything, right? We want to assist you and have a little AI assistant technically that can take care of this for you. Obviously, you have supervision over this, but you need to be able to supervise that and kind of reply to customer quicker. That is procedure. What are some of the use cases? We did some work with a software company recently. They're pretty large. They have a big market in Europe, but they also deal with customer in the US and Australia. And they have a level 1 and level 2 escalation. So some of the systems, specifically the billing system, were only available to the level 2 engineer. And so very often when a ticket came through and any information needed to be extracted from a billing perspective, that automatically went to a level 2 team. By definition, when you escalate a ticket, you're increasing the full resolution time. It's just going to take longer to reply to the customer, by definition. What we were able to do with this customer is we've actually built up some procedure that had API access to specific endpoint of the billing system to gather a very specific piece of information that were not very sensitive, but were restricted because the level 1 team did not have access to that. And so all of a sudden, we have a procedure that can take over entire level 1 ticket, talk to the billing system, gather the right information without requiring a level 1 people to have access to that for security reason or compliance. But we can still gather the right information and get the procedure and Auto Assist to actually reply to the customer. So the result of this is basically we've actually reduced their escalation ticket by about 60%. And so the first reply time and the full resolution time went down. The overall customer satisfaction went up. We've basically empowered the level 1 team with more responsibility without compromising on compliance and security risk, right? So those are some of the use cases that you can think of around the capability and the power of a procedure. Very powerful stuff. I'm just going to move on, and I want to show you what reporting is becoming available to you, because there is a lot of very interesting reporting that comes with Zendesk Copilot. And this type of reporting, generally speaking, at least when you start being able to identify and view what you can see in those reports, will help you drive very, very educated decision, right? So specifically when it comes to, hey, maybe we want to invest into a deflection strategy, then the question is, okay, what do we deflect first? What ticket do we want to deflect first? What training do we need to derive, et cetera, et cetera. And so the first report that you get access to as part of the Zendesk Analytics Suite in your report is the Zendesk Copilot Intelligent Triage. Remember, intelligent triage has everything to do with, let's analyze every single ticket that come in and assign all those different metadata to it, right? Intent, language, sentiment, all that sort of thing. So intelligent triage, if you look at it, I'm just navigating here, going to the intent tab here. We can start looking at, let me just make this a bit more 6 months. We are actually looking at the top reason for why customers are reaching out to us for. And so you can see here, we do a lot of refund requests. We have a lot of people who are receiving the wrong item. What is going on here? We have lots of leave requests. We actually have the HR team who are also handling the employee inquiry. So you can start having full visibility of what ticket is reaching out into Zendesk. And we can also look at performance on those type of inquiry. So we can look at the satisfaction score. Are people satisfied, right? We can look at the sentiment rating overall, and you can see here all the refund requests, the sentiment rating is pretty poor. And so we can start understanding how well we're performing based on the type of query that we receive. Now, this is such a powerful report, in my opinion, because all of a sudden you are empowered to make very, very educated decision. And a good example, for example, is here, right? Those refund requests are generally a one-touch ticket, right? 94% of those tickets are one touch. The full resolution time is 73 hours on average. That's very long. Why don't we automate that? Is there any way for us to just deflect that entirely, right? Either through AI agent or other means, whatever it is. And the main reason for this is, one, it's taking a long time to resolve those tickets, but two, there's a very high percentage of one touch, which means we reply to the customer and close solved. So certainly there's potential for automation there, right? On the other hand, for change invoice or receipt, that's a bit more complicated. We can see here it's only 66%, right? One touch ticket. So probably it's not really deflectable, but maybe is there any procedure, right, that we can build to reduce the full resolution time? Or is there anything with regards to automatically routing those tickets to the right team to reduce the full resolution time? So this data is a goldmine for you to leverage to be able to start doing surgical improvement on your support operation. And that data is providing you with the necessary metrics to be able to understand, do we build a procedure here? Does it make sense for us to deflect entirely and delay that to AI agent or other means? So very cool thing, your custom intent, if you create custom intent, will also show up here. So that's the beauty of it. Again, we can start looking at sentiment. So, if you like to do a bit of QA and have a bit of an understanding of, why are the ticket, with negative sentiment, what are we doing here? What are the intents with the most negative sentiment and why, et cetera, et cetera. Those are reports that you can start drilling in if you want to start doing a little bit of QA. Obviously, Zendesk has a full QA suite. I'm not going to go over that today, but just with that, you do have a fair amount of report available to you. Number two, that is for the agent productivity. So that's Agent Copilot, right? You also have full reporting on the adoption of Copilot, right? We want to see, are our team member approving procedure? Are they accepting merge requests for ticket, suggestion for ticket? Are they accepting macro suggestions, et cetera, et cetera? So all of that reporting is there for you to track. It's important to track that because you want to know the adoption rate. You want to understand out of all those reply, 19 of them have been dismissed. Why is that, right? Maybe have a chat or discuss why is it not accurate? Do the procedure needs to change, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's a whole bunch of different things here, but this gives you basically full visibility of adoption. And you can also measure all your procedure. So I'm actually going to scroll down here for a little bit. And so you can see here, this is all procedure, had to refund. It tells you how many tickets have been hit with this procedure. And we can see the acceptance rate and the satisfaction course. So out of 100% ticket that the procedure has triggered, how many times was that accepted by your team, right? And so all of that is available to you. This is an ongoing optimization that you can do. You can also track this by different agent name and team member. So you can see here, Hugo, myself, obviously, I'm much more proactive than Chad, but you have full visibility across that. That is Copilot in a nutshell. And so I'm going to switch gear and kind of go over briefly how to measure success. And then I'm going to stop talking and bring back Jess in. Hopefully we have some question there. But so how do you measure success, right? The reality of Copilot and the key metrics that you would want to measure, and at least that's what we see, that's what we recommend when we implement those strategy for customer and client, is the key benchmark is really the number of ticket handled by your team, right? So the industry average, obviously that depend a lot on which industry you're in, whether you're a consumer, B2C or B2B. But let's say that the baseline is that every team member on average is handling 20 tickets a day. With a good and successful implementation of Copilot and a good adoption, you want this to go to 30. And so by definition, if you have a team of 10, you technically just created an extra 5 without the additional headcount cost, and your team is able to handle much more without the extra effort and extra hour to put in, right? So it's really around productivity gain. It's really around each team member capability and number of ticket that they can handle. And so those are very good things because you're reducing your cost to growth. You're basically increasing the ratio to customer support agent to your end customer. So if you have, let's say, one new support agent per 1,000 customer, now you can have one support agent by 2,000 customer. And so your cost of growth is reduced. And more importantly, we actually are seeing a pretty significant increase in your team satisfaction in terms of their job because, instead of me having to type in all the answer and kind of being, hands-on in replying to ticket, now I have a little AI assistant that I'm supervising in some way. And so job satisfaction actually goes up, generally speaking. So those are the things that we generally see when Copilot is deployed successfully. Obviously, there are a couple of things that you need to kind of, ask yourself. You obviously need Zendesk. You need some level of good foundation and good setup with your Zendesk. But other than that, that is Copilot in a nutshell. Hopefully that was quite helpful. I'll switch over to you, Jess, if we have any question from the audience. And obviously you can see this little QR code here. So feel free to, if you want to talk to us and have a consultation one-on-one and have any follow-up question, you can absolutely do that. So please feel free to book some time with us.
Fab. Thank you for the deeper insight into Zendesk Copilot there, Hugo. I do have a few questions for you. So the first one I've got is, someone asked, we already use AI agents for chat. How is Agent Copilot going to be any different?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, again, right, AI agent, if I go back to this slide that I had in the beginning, right, which is this one, right? So, AI agent is really here to deflect and not have a ticket in the first place. Copilot is everything to do with when a ticket is created, right? So the ticket is created. If you have AI agent out there, the ticket is created because your AI agent could not handle it, and so someone has to account for this ticket. So there's separate strategy, right? They're different strategy, they're different technology. However, the underlying capability of it really relies on your knowledge. And so one of the things that we see generally quite often is, you need a structured knowledge base, because the more accurate your knowledge is, the better it is, right? And so if you were to, you can invest as much as you want in AI capability, but the truth is, if you don't have a structured knowledge base with a lot of articles that are up to date, most of either AI agent or Copilot is based on that. We do recommend a tool for this. So there is some capability with Copilot to generate a knowledge base based on, I think, the last 30 days of the ticket that you have. Very often customers need more than that. So we actually use a lot this tool called Factify.ai. This allows you to basically connect your ticketing platform, your Zendesk. If you have other platform, you can connect anything. This ingests all your historical customer interaction and just automatically create an entire help center and help article for you. And it will continually update those articles. And you can deploy those articles and publish them into your help center. So this is a very powerful tool. It's probably the first step. If you decide to invest into AI capability, your knowledge is going to be critical in the success of everything you do. So if you don't have a help center, I recommend checking this out. But yeah, AI agent is a bit different. AI agent is mainly to deflect.
Fab. Thank you for answering that. That sort of answers our other question as well. We did have a question about how they're building their help center already, and can they still use the AI features?
Yeah, well, that's actually tackling both this question, right? Yeah. So look, Copilot comes with a capability to actually generate a help center. Let me actually share my screen here. So there is some knowledge generation capability within Copilot, which is actually really good, right? And many people might need that. So if I actually go to settings here on my knowledge admin here, you can see there's this little icon here that says generate a new help center. This will basically take the last 30 days of your ticket. So, all the ticket that you had in the last 30 days, you give it a bit of a prompt around what does your business do, what do your customer need help with, and it will just kind of generate a help center for you. So this is really, really good. Again, right, if you need something more, if you want something that can kind of ingest all your ticket, and maybe you have other information, maybe you have document that you want to upload, PDFs, slide that you want to be able to be used to generate your help center, this is where Factify would come in. But otherwise, yeah, you can leverage that. That's part of Copilot. It's really good. You can decide the language. So yeah, that's part of the Copilot as well.
Fab, thank you. I think that's all for our questions now. Thank you for delving into all of that. And I want to say thank you to everyone for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the session. So within the next hour, you'll get an email with the replay in there. And then there's also going to be some more information in the email about our previous webinars we've had, any upcoming webinars we've also got, and then also some steps that you can take on your side just to help your current CX and EX setup. Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.